My dear friends, in the previous chapter, we looked into the air, that is atmosphere. Okay, now in this chapter, we are going to deal with a very critical component of our life, something which is very much essential for the survival of, human beings or any living organism on the earth, and that is water. So, in this chapter, we are going to deal with this water. Now, tell me what comes to your mind when you hear this word water. You may say that yes, there is river, the image of river, the image of springs, the image of oceans, or the rainfall that occurs. These are the pictures that occurs or that comes to our mind when we hear this word water. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so this chapter is very interesting, and at the same time it is a very serious topic as well, because when we talk about water, you might have heard this topic of water scarcity in Chennai, in Bangalore, some years back, a couple of years back in Simla. So all this we will deal in this chapter: how water circulates, what is the type of circulation that occurs in oceans. But in this part of the video, we are going to have an introductory class, introductory lecture on water. So this chapter begins with a very interesting concept, and that is our earth as an our earth means the basic idea behind the water cycle. Before we go into water cycle, how the water from oceans evaporates into the atmosphere, and then it comes back to the land and then goes to the ocean. So before understanding that, let's try to understand this concept that your chapter begins with: our earth as a terrarium. So some of you may ask, sir, what is this terrarium? So it's a very simple, like a glass jar. So what all you have to do is take a glass jar, put some soil into it, okay, then add some humus, the organic material, onto the top of the soil. Then take some small plants and that can fit into the glass jar basically, and then spray some amount of water into the leaves of this plant, and also some extent onto the soil. Now when you do all these things, you put a glass jar, okay, then you take some soil, and then you also added some amount of humus, that is like dead leaves and all those things. You added some humus and you added some plants into it, okay. So suppose this is the plant I have added here, right, and then you will spray some amount of water. So let's suppose I have water from blue color, so let's spray some water over the leaves or the plant and some water onto the soil. Now close this jar with a very tightly close this jar. Now what will you observe? After some days, you will find that whatever amount of water that you have sprayed on the soil as well as on the plants, that amount will remain same within the jar. So what is happening here? A very simple phenomena happening. Whatever water that you have sprayed here, that evaporates, and when it evaporates, it strikes on this part of the container, which is very tightly packed, the cover of the container, right? And when it cools down after some time, it will be again reach to the soil, and it will again reach to the plants. So this same phenomena occurs again and again, and that is why whatever amount of water you have sprayed, that amount will remain same even after some days you open this jar, okay. So this all will occur only when you have a tight container, because there is always a chance of escaping of air, and along with air some water droplets or water vapor along with it. So what is happening here is that whatever amount of water is already there in the jar, that same amount of water is circulating from this soil to the this top of the this top of the cover that we have, and then it again condenses and goes back to the soil and the plant lives. Okay, our earth is like this terrarium. How? When we say our earth is like a terrarium, we basically means that the same amount of water that existed a thousands year ago or a century ago, the same amount of water is existing even today, and the same amount of water will exist even after hundreds of years. Right? So that is why our earth is a terrarium. So why I am saying is our earth like a terrarium is that the amount of water that was existing hundreds of years ago the same is existing even today and will remain same even after 100 years. Okay, so the same amount of water that was in existence, the amount of water that was existing hundreds of years ago is existing even today and will remain same even after 100 years. That is why, don't you think this phenomena that is occurring on the earth, the same water is getting circulated, that is the same thing that is taking place in terrarium, right? So with this concept, now let's move to our first topic, that is water cycle. So let's understand what is this water cycle. Okay, so it's not a very difficult to understand water cycle. It's a very concept that you can understand very easily. So actually what water cycle is, that I have talked in the terrarium. Suppose in water cycle, to understand water cycle, you have to understand two very important phenomena. So when we are study about water cycle, let's first define it. What actually is this? And you should also mention what I am writing here. Okay, so it is a process. So it is a process by which water changes its forms continuously and gets circulated between oceans, atmosphere and land. So make note of it, because if you will write simultaneously, you will be better placed to understand it as well. Now let's underline the key concept. First, it is a process, means something is happening here. Okay, something is happening with the mechanism. So it's a process by which water is changing its form. Now what I mean when I say the water is changing its form, means when you say water, water is not only existent in liquid form that we drink, it is also in vapor form, that is gaseous form. It is also in solid form, that is snow form or the ice crystals. You might have often come across the news that there is now snowfall in Jammu and Kashmir, or in any mountainous region for that for that matter. So when I say water changes its form, it means that water which was liquid, it get converted into vapor when the solar radiation, hits this water, and because of this hitting of water, the process of evaporation takes place and it gets converted into vapor. Now the vapor, when cools down, it goes condensation. So here is the process of evaporation taking place, and then there is a process of condensation taking place, and this vapor may again change into water or ice, and so this is what we call liquid. So here was liquid, it gets converted into vapor, and it also gets converted into solid through condensation and back into water. So this whole circle will gets completed. So now let's understand through a diagram. Suppose this is a source of water. This is suppose ocean. So this is ocean, suppose, and here we have, suppose here we have land, and here we have mountains, of course, right? So what happens when solar radiation, where solar insolation, remember I have already dealt with the insolation topic yesterday, or in the previous video, or in the previous lecture. So what is insolation? It is the amount of heat that is coming on the surface. So suppose this is the solar radiation that is coming on the surface of ocean. Now what will happen after some time, due to heating of this surface water, this liquid form of water will undergo evaporation. So what is happening here? Evaporation. So as you already know what is this evaporation, the conversion of liquid form into gaseous form is called evaporation. So this water that was existent in liquid form, it will now get converted into gaseous form, and it will move. Suppose this is the gaseous particles of water, or this is suppose water vapor. And in the previous lecture we have dealt that whenever there is solar insolation coming here, there is heating of the surface of water, and the air that is lying above this water will get heated. So suppose these are air particles that is touching the surface of, suppose these are air particles that is in contact with the surface of oceanic water. Now when this surface of ocean gets heated, the air that is lying above it will get heated, and it will start rising. And remember, there is a process, that is evaporation has occurred, and that is why some water vapor is also there in this air. Now when this air will rise above, what will happen? These air molecules which was close to the earth was closer to each other. Now these molecules will expand, and with this expansion and rise in the altitude, the water vapor is also going up, right? So we have also water vapor that is within this air. When water vapor goes upside, the temperature goes down, and with due to temperature going down, these water vapors that we have, it will undergo condensation. And what is this condensation? The changing of vapor into liquid form is called condensation. So because this vapor is undergoing condensation, there is a formation of cloud that will occur here, in which all the water molecules that have condensed will now accumulate at a particular place and form cloud. So again some amount of water vapor will go here, and the concentration of water will go on increasing. Because these are tiny droplets, the air has some capability to hold this water droplets. Now water droplets are starting getting accumulated in a very much amount, and when this water droplets concentration goes unsustainably high, the air now cannot hold this water droplets, and as a result of which this will fall as water on the ground. And as it will fall on the ground from river sources, it will again be mixed into the oceans. So this circulation, so here is occurring evaporation. So here, through the process of evaporation, water from ocean is entering into atmosphere. So this is the atmosphere, and then what is happening here? The process of condensation is happening here, and when this process of condensation is happening, water is again coming back to the surface, and from surface you see through rivers it is again coming back to the oceans. So this circulation of water is repeated. So the water changes its form, as we have seen, continuously and gets circulated between oceans, atmosphere and land. Ocean basically means hydrosphere, then atmosphere means the formation of cloud, and then back to the land. So this is called water cycle. So this phenomena is called water cycle. So as you write this, just draw a diagram and everything will be clear, nothing will be left. Okay, so this was the basic idea behind water cycle. So just remember this, no need to remember, just understand it and there will be no more confusion. Look into this picture again and again and draw this picture. That is very much important. Drawing pictures will give you clarity of mind, and when you have clarity in your mind, you are not going to forget it even after a year, right? But that doesn't mean that you do not revise things. That is very much necessary. So this was the basic idea behind water cycle. So just make it diagram. If you can use different colors, use different colors. That will be very easy to understand. Okay, so this is a circulation of water. Okay, basically water changes its form from the liquid form into gaseous form when it goes into atmosphere, and then again into liquid form when it comes back to the surface. So this was the basic idea of the water circulation. Okay, so the next what we have to study is the water. So when we talk about water, what you drink or what you use in household are basically potable water, meaning that are their usable water, or they are like drinkable water, the water that you can drink, that is fresh water. But the maximum amount of water that we have on earth is not fresh water. You have to understand it. They are saline water. So when we talk about water, so we have two kinds of water that is existent on earth. One is the saline water or the salty water, and then we have the most known water, that is fresh water. So this is the water that we can consume. And what are the sources of this fresh water? What are the sources? You know very much. The lakes, the rivers, ponds, right? Groundwater means underground rocks, they are also the water. And the most important, the glaciers and the ice caps. And where do you find these glaciers? You find these glaciers on Himalayas. You find these glaciers on many mountain systems around the world. And you also found this glacier in Antarctica, right? You also find ice caps in Arctic and Antarctica. They are the major portion that is containing these glaciers and ice caps. And what about saline water? Why we are calling it salty? Why are we using this word salty? Because this water contains significant amount of significant or a very large amount of large significant amount of salts in it. This contains a large amount of salts in it. And when we call salts, majorly we have sodium chloride, that is common salt we use. So this salty water, you will find that they majorly consists of sodium chloride. In addition to it, you may have magnesium chloride and other salts as well. They are basically impurities, what we call. So on the you will see that the water that we have, they can be classified into fresh water and saline water, and predominantly you will see that we have saline water. And when we talk about the sources, we have lakes, rivers, ponds, groundwater or the underground rocks, then glaciers and ice caps. These are basically the sources of fresh water. And the saline water, where is it? So you will find it in oceans and seas, and some amount of inland water or inland lakes are also getting polluted, and they are getting converted into salty water, but that is not the major component. The major constituent is oceans and seas, right? So this was the basic idea. Now what is salinity? So when we call saline water, we tend to compare two waters, and then we come to a conclusion that okay, this water is more saline than this water. So when we talk about salinity, it is a measure of amount of, so it's a measure of amount of salt concentration in water, right? So we measure salt concentration in water through this term salinity. Now let's define this salinity. What is this? It is the amount of salt which is in grams, which is in grams, contained in 1000 grams of water. 1000 grams of water. Now let's understand this concept. It is the amount of salt. Okay, when we find out the salinity of a water, we find what is the amount of salt that is present in 1000 grams of water. So what does it mean? So let's suppose we have taken 1 kg of water. Usually you take water in liters, but here you have to take water in kg. So suppose we take 1 kg water. Let's make some space so that we can have a clear cut diagram. So what I'm trying to say is, suppose this is 1 kg of water we have taken. This is 1 kg of water we have taken. So these are water molecules we have. And I do not have to tell you this 1 kg means 1000 gram. So let's make it clear. So this is 1000 gram of water we have taken. So these are water molecules that I am representing here. Now within these water molecules, we have also some molecules of salt within this 1000 gram. So this is suppose the salt molecules that is in water. So when we try to find out how many molecules of salt are there in 1000 gram of water, this is what we call salinity. So how much this salt molecules are there in 1000 gram of water, this is called salinity. So we take 1000 gram water and then we find in grams how much salt is contained in this water. That is called salinity. So On an average, if you will find the salinity of all the oceans that is present, you will find that on an average we have an average salinity, average 35 gram, right? 35 gram is the, so when we write it, we write it 35 gram parts, or we say simply 35 parts per thousand. Means this is the average salinity of oceans on earth. What does it mean 35 parts per thousand? Means if you are taking 1000 particles or molecules of oceanic water, you will find that 35 gram will be salt, and maximum of this in 35 gram will be sodium chloride. Maybe magnesium chloride and all other things will be present, but maximum of them will be sodium chloride. But that is not the thing that we have to emphasize upon. We have to emphasize upon this 35 parts per thousand. Parts means whatever amount of, whatever 1000, if you take 1000 amount of salt water from any oceans of the world, and you will compare that, you will come to conclusion that after calculating the salinity of different oceans, for example Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic, and all those oceans you will take, if you will find the average of salinity, you will come to the conclusion that 35 parts per thousand is the average salinity. But that doesn't mean that the salinity of oceanic water that we have on earth is uniform throughout. That is not the case here. So you will find that there are some lakes which are extremely, or there are some seas which are extremely saline. That means they have very higher concentration of salts present in the water there. So we have an example of Dead Sea in Israel, and many people, this is actually a very it's a tourist place. People go there and enjoy swimming or floating on the water without any effort. So this is famous for effortless swimming. Effortless swimming means anybody can swim here, irrespective of he knows how to swim or not. Even if you do not know how to swim, you are not going to drown into this water. That is the speciality of Dead Sea. So it is in Israel. And why I am saying that nobody can drown here? Even if he wants to drown himself in the water, he cannot. Why is happening here? This is because the amount of salt that is present in the water is that much high. The concentration of salt is that much high that it will not allow anything to submerge into it. So these are the salt molecules you have, right? And the rest is water. So the rest is water, and the water, when you presses water, you will get some amount of force from water as well. But when the concentration of salt increases, this amount of force goes much higher than this amount of force. That is why nothing can drown here, nothing can submerge here. Okay, so this was the basic concept of Dead Sea, the magical sea, right, in which nobody can submerge, nobody can go down, right? So this was the basic concept of the salinity. Now let's understand the distribution of water. That is a very important concept, and where we will look into how water is going scarce and how we have to change our attitude towards usages of water, right? That is very much important, that we change our attitude now. It's high time that we change ourselves and save water for future generations to come. So when we talk about future generations, that is basically the sustainable usage of water we are talking about. So let's understand the distribution of water. Distribution of water. So we have recently dealt with the saline water and fresh water. So when we comes to the saline water, how much saline water is there on the earth? So you will be amazed here that 97.2% of the water that we have on the earth are saline water. Can you imagine? If you have 100 liters of water on the earth, more than 97 liters are saline water in the oceans and seas. So these are basically saline waters present in oceans and seas and in some inland lakes, right? So this is 97.2%. So what is fresh water that is there? Remaining amount is your fresh water. So if you will subtract 100 from it, suppose I want to subtract 100, so what I will get? Okay, so basically this is 2.8%. 2.8% is fresh water, but are you happy with it? Don't get excited. With this 2.8% that we have, so this is 97.3% and this is 2.7%. Now within this 2.7%, 2% is present in ice caps and glaciers. So basically these are in crystal form or the solid form or the ice form. So now we are left with just 0.7% of fresh water, because this water is frozen. We can't use it. You cannot go and start melting these glaciers and ice caps. That is not possible. So we are left with now 0.7%. Now within this 0.7%, you have usable fresh water that is on the land is close to 0.4%, and rest 0.3% is some type of water that we cannot use generally, for example in drainage system or marshy areas. So this 0.4% of water is the surface water. This is the surface water. So can you imagine only within 0.7% of water we have the water that we can use on, and within this 0.4% is for use. So make a headline that more than 99% of all water on earth are unusable by human beings and other organisms, right? So just write it, because some of the organisms may survive even in saline water. We know that a large amount of marine species are there. So this is something you have to write in capital letter, and from this you have to understand how the situation is very much difficult, how critical is the situation. So whenever you come across water scarcity term, you can understand why this all is happening, because we have less than 0.7% of water to use, and our population is increasing at such a drastic rate, And of course, we as human beings are polluting everything, we are damaging everything. Okay, so with this data, you must improve your attitude towards usage of water. Be very careful when you use water. Try to save as much water as possible. Try to minimize the wastage of water. I'm not saying try to minimize the usage of water, trying to minimize the misuse of water. Whenever you washes your teeth, you open your tap and then just the water is flowing and flowing, and you do not even care about this data that we have and the water scarcity that is there. More than 60 crore people in India are facing some form of water scarcity. More than 60 crore people in India. So with that critical situation that we have, can you afford to waste water? I know your answer is no. So my dear friend, this topic is there to basically aware you about the situation that we have on the earth. And we as Indians have even very less amount of fresh water. Okay, so just consider it very seriously and just make a promise that I will not allow anyone or myself even to misuse the water. So that is the idea behind this whole concept. Okay, the distribution of water. So in this lecture we will end this lecture here, and in the next lecture we will look into what are the circulation of water that is taking place in oceans, in which we will look into the waves, tides and all those things. So so whatever I have mentioned in this lecture, just make note of it and make diagram of each and everything. I have just have a diagram of this water cycle. Just make it once or twice so that you can understand the concept, because understanding the concept is very much essential in geography. So with this little amount of unsolicited advice, I will like to end up this lecture. So thanks for joining, and spread this knowledge to your friends and family. Okay, so that every can get aware of the situation that we have. So like, subscribe and share, so that this word of knowledge can be spread to a larger population. Okay, so with this, goodbye and keep doing hard work. Thank you very much.